friends, come along with me for a week of learning how to not only be a mermaid, but also freedive at the Four Seasons Bora Bora. This is literally a scene out of a postcard. This is one of the most beautiful resorts I've ever stayed at in my entire life, and what a place to learn how to become a PADI certified professional mermaid and learn how to freedive. Now, between the two, I can tell you, learning to freedive was a cakewalk compared to mermaiding. When you're freediving, you have a weight belt, you have two fins, you have a mask and snorkel. When you're mermaiding, you're there for the entertainment aspect of it. You have to get rid of all of that because you want to look like a true mermaid. In addition, we got to experience what the resort was really about. This is one of the land villas, and I was hanging out in their pool after I already shot some mermaid content in there. And then they hosted a dinner for us, while we also learned more about the oral history and culture of the Tahitian Islands and how it was tied to Tahiti and New Zealand. That was probably one of my favorite nights, and it started to rain on us at the very end. While exploring the resort, you'll see really cool things like this swing, which of course I spent way too much time on. And they have another thing that you can experience while you're there. They have a spa that you can go and relax in the hot tub if you want, completely included in your stay. They also have an area where you can do yoga, which is something I definitely participated in. We all took breathing classes and breath work classes that helped us with learning more and more about freediving. And this is something we did as a group. Now, the part of freediving that was the hardest for me is I had to be able to hold my breath on 2 different attempts. After training for a little bit, we got 2 shots at it for 1.5 minutes. And I'll tell you, this was not an easy task for me to do, but I was able to finally get it on the 2nd attempt. Now let's take you out to the ocean because this was really cool. We got to go out 2 separate times, and both times we were actually trying to just take some pictures in our tails, but I took the time to enjoy as much as the boat as possible because you guys know I love staying on boats. And this is Mana. He took us out to some of the best spots all around Bora Bora. My favorite spot, of course, included getting to check out the blacktip reef sharks. It's so funny how when taking my GoPro down and looking back at the footage, it looks so crystal clear, but this is actually not the greatest visibility, even though in a second you're gonna see a ray. There it is, compared to here, which is the much deeper water where we were able to just swim around with the blacktip reef sharks. You probably saw I was doing that in my tail as well for a little bit, but just enjoying the sharks and taking in the beautiful island. We then went back to Mana's company area where they introduced us not only to some incredible cuisine, we had one of the best lunches I have ever had, but then we also worked to make bracelets with them. But I know you guys want an Overwater bungalow tour, so come into my Overwater bungalow. I believe they have more than 130 of these Overwater bungalows. They only have a handful of the land villas, which are for much bigger parties, but this is perfect for a romantic getaway if you're gonna be spending time on maybe your honeymoon. But they also have these Overwater bungalows for families. Mine just happens to have 1 bed, but I saw the configuration where they had 2 different queen beds in there, and then they can also have a pull-out couch area. The best part, I think, is how just crystal clear and blue the water is. And the air conditioning was always needed because it does get really hot and humid. I didn't open these up for this video, but all of those shutters open completely. And so you can, if you want, turn off the air conditioning and have a completely open cabana to the outside world. So yeah, this is my room for the week and it was pretty awesome. Definitely no complaints from me on that. Big cheers to that, but I also want to show you guys the chef garden because this was one of my favorite places to visit at the entire resort. Of course, they use all of those herbs and spices in the dishes that they're making for the guests, but they also set up a cocktail making class for us, which was really fun. I had fun with this because we were able to go into the garden and find different things to make our drinks, and I found the pea flower, this purple one, and I was able to make my cocktail. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called, pea flower. Yes. I'm gonna go with that. We also made these awesome flower crowns. This took a while and I'm certainly not as skilled as the locals are. They also don't last too long. You'd want to put them in the fridge after you make them. But it came as like a set of classes where we made the flower crowns. We also learned about their local oils, like their local manoi and coconut oils, and we made little perfumes that we could take home with us. And then one of my favorite things that we did included the beadwork in making like shell necklaces with some of the local shells. This took quite some time. I think it took almost 2 hours for me to make this masterpiece, and then I ended up giving it to my grandmother for Mother's Day. This is another shot from that villa pool that I really enjoyed. And then I took some shots around the property because I made a video like of the 2023 property tour. So if you see some of these cool still shots, that's what I used them for. Talking about the different lagoons and all the different restaurants. I'm not going to bore you guys with the food I had, but the food was incredible, especially the Tahitian fish. Like, that was my number one thing I kept having every single day for lunch. Now, in addition to learning how to mermaid, we took classes with Wise Oceans, and we were able to plant corals into the ocean that will graft here in 2 seconds. Let me show you. There it is. This is where guests and myself were able to put the corals to allow them to grow before they will later be transplanted onto other corals or artificial reefs. We also, of course, did some mermaiding shoots because this was a press trip, and I've been doing videos and articles, but this is your little peek behind the scenes. I'm getting used to my tail. I swam over to this guy. His name was Ryan, and he was cool, gave me a ride back. And this is where we did some more of the shooting out in open water. This was one of my favorite shots. Isn't this cool? It's an over-under, but I zoomed it in for this video so you can have the horizontal video. I got some other shots I needed for a story I actually did for Live in the Bay, which was on K-Ron. I also want to show you guys a little more training. That was one of the things we had to do for training, as well as these dynamic swims. Four Seasons Bora Bora has this beautiful private island, and I was able to observe a wedding, and it made me cry. It was so nice. The sunsets are, as you can imagine, just stunning. But this was the whole crew. This is all of us swimming together in our mermaid tails. This is me blowing bubble kisses, and finally you can see me officially get my mermaiding certificate after completing all of the coursework needed to become a PADI certified professional mermaid. They had a troupe, one of the last nights we were there, come in from the Marquesas that showed us some of the traditional dances. But I will leave you with my favorite shot from the entire trip, where we are all swimming under this bridge, and then there's this big, beautiful reveal. Let me give it to you in 3, 2, 2.5, 2 3/4, and 1.